On this episode of the Smoke and Barrel Show, we're going to talk about some of our favorite underrated cigars. So on this episode, we want to talk about some of our favorite underrated cigars. So Kyle, let's talk about the difference between a budget cigar and what we're considering to be an underrated cigar,
Well,
right?
okay, so an underrated cigar doesn't have a price. It can be expensive, it can be cheap.
Right.
It's just not noticed by people as more often. You really have to take them into my humidor and direct them to it to get them to try it. You know, it doesn't get the publicity that other cigars get.
Yeah.
Or it's a new brand that people haven't heard about.
Yep.
It's been around a while. We're just trying to push something that we think's really good.
Yeah. So let's start with the list here, guys. And the first one we've got is the Highclere Castle. This is made by Foundation Cigars. So first of all, what's the makeup of this, and why is this an underrated cigar?
Okay, so it's all Nicaraguan, binder and filler Nicaraguan. The wrapper is Ecuadorian Habano.
Okay.
Foundation Cigars is a really boutique brand, is a really small brand. AJ makes most of their cigars for them. Highclere Castle is his premium line. People have heard of Tabernacle and they buy them a lot.
Great,
you know, Charter
like
Oak is the lowest one.
Yeah.
El Wawense or Wise Man, they're all popular, but the Highclere seems to be ignored more. And yet I think it's the classiest cigar out of the group.
I think the Charter Oak was probably on our budget cigars.
Budget
right?
cigars,
That's a
yeah,
really
I mean,
good
it's
cigar.
still a really great cigar.
Yeah.
But this is really, really smooth. It's got some spice. But I rate it up there with a Davidoff in its quality level, in the way it smokes.
What is it kind of retail for? as far as the range?
Somewhere around $17 or $18,
Okay.
which is under Davidoff, but still that's on the high end for that brand.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely recommend any Foundation, but you ought to come in and try Highclere Castle. They also make a Connecticut. If you don't want the Habano spiciness, they make a Connecticut also.
Right. All right, so the next one on the list, guys, is the El Septimo Yao. So now when I think about El Septimo, I think about really expensive cigars, but they also make some, moderate costing cigars. But this, you're saying this is an underrated cigar,
Right?
What's the wrapper, binder, and
Okay,
filler?
so we don't know. It's proprietary.
That's right.
They do not print what the cigar is made of on any of their lines, any of their brands. To say that is a very rich, full-bodied cigar out of the line. It's the only one out of the group, and we carry probably 15 different El Septimos. I've sold at least 4 boxes of that cigar as singles or doubles. I've sold maybe a box of the rest of the line. So every time I've recommended it, people have come back to buy a couple of them. But it's not something anybody's walking in to look for.
And this is a big cigar. This is a Gordo Torpedo.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And it'll last you a good well over an hour.
Where does this kind of ring in at with as far as price?
$24.99, so $25.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not inexpensive. But if you want to celebrate and you don't want to do a Padron or a Davidoff, that's what I would.
That's a good go-to that many people may not be familiar with. Right,
correct.
All right, so the next one on the list is the 601 Oscuro, which is the green label. 601 makes a bunch of different labels.
Yeah, it's Espinosa who makes all of the 601s.
And I will admit, so I like several of the 601s. I have actually not had the Oscuro, and I'm actually smoking it today right now. So it's actually a really good cigar. So for me, this is something I haven't tried. So what's the wrapper, binder, and filler, and why do you think this is underrated?
Okay, it's all Nicaraguan. The wrapper is Nicaraguan Habano, so they used Habano seed Nicaragua to do it.
Yeah.
Espinosa doesn't get a lot of credit, and I don't know why. He makes some really, really good cigars. Cigar Snob gave his Oscuro the #1 of the cigar of the year in their magazine 3 years ago. I think all the 601 line is really good. The Azulejo was a new cigar 2 years ago. I can't keep it in stock. But people don't come in asking for it. So it's, that's just something that gets lost in the humidor or whatever. So I direct people to it because that is, it's got a nice, really good peppery taste at the beginning, and it just holds up.
Yeah, and I'd put it on sort of the medium, right?
It's not
full-bodied.
full,
it's not light. I put it on the medium side. It's a really good cigar so far.
Really great stick, and that's about a $10 cigar.
Okay. So the last one on the list, and this might create some controversy, the last one we picked is a Gurkha, right? And this is the Gurkha Nicaraguan, right? And so Gurkha gets a bad rap, and I think, you know, maybe years ago Gurkha may have had some challenges. I think they've overcome a lot of that. But I've had this Gurkha Nicaraguan. I think it's a really good cigar.
Right.
I almost feel weird smoking it because you see so much negativity out there.
Right.
But talk a little bit about this cigar
Okay,
first.
well, I'll talk about Gurkha, right?
Yeah.
You know, they don't have a factory. They have people make them cigars. So when they started out, they were really expensive, and their cigars were mediocre at best. It's just the way it was.
And that's kind of where all that bad
where
press
a lot
came.
of that background comes from, because, you know, I mean, when you start out, the manufacturer is dictating how much you're going to pay for them to roll you cigars, and you're putting the money into it.
Right.
When you start to grow and people start to notice the brand and start buying it, you have more power to talk to the manufacturer about what you want to pay to have a cigar. So their prices have dropped.
Right.
And yeah, they worked on a lot of other factories to try to get cigars that weren't mediocre, and that's made by Aganorsa. And Aganorsa, to me, is an underrated cigar anyway as a whole brand. But we sell a lot of it in here. I direct a lot of people to that line because they're just such good, consistent, high-quality Nicaraguans. And that one is really
So
really
this is all
good.
the wrapper, binder, and filler.
Yes,
Is all Nicaraguan.
also, yes, and it Aganorsa leaf.
Yeah.
Because it's made by Aganorsa. So,
Yeah.
medium-bodied, not full.
Yeah, I would agree. It's medium. Now, the first two I have not had. So back to the first two. Where would you categorize those first two? Right? Where would you categorize?
The Yao is headed toward full body, but the Highclere Castle is like a medium. It's a lot like the Davidoff Nicaraguan. If you're looking for scale of taste, if you've had that, or a Padron Natural 64, it's in that area.
Okay.
Just a high-end, classy cigar.
All right. So there you go, guys. So those are 4 cigars that we would consider to be underrated, really good cigars. If you're in your local cigar shop or you're shopping online, check them out. We always want you to check them out here. Look us up online at Route 7 Cigars. So that's Route and the number 7 cigars.com, and come in and check out the shop.
Yep.
And don't forget to like and subscribe and make some comments below. We'd love to hear your take on these cigars.
Yep.